The horrific tragedy of Orlando is forcing people from different walks of life to take a closer look at their own homophobic fears, and not everyone likes what they see. Thousands showed up at rallies in support of the victims and LGBTQ community in the days following the Orlando nightclub massacre, including a rally in the Bronx. The borough's first openly gay elected official, City Council member Richie Torres, tells me there are mixed emotions.
I think it empowers us to assert ourselves as a community and let our pride and identity be known, but at the same time, it reminds us that trauma and violence are part of the LGBTQ experience here in the United States.
At another rally in Utah, self-described white male straight Republican Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox apologized to the LGBTQ community and says the time for hate is over.
I went to a small rural high school. There were some kids in my class that were different than me, and sometimes I wasn't kind to them. I didn't know it at the time, but I know now that they were gay. I regret not treating them with the kindness, dignity, and respect, the love that they deserved.
In the hip-hop world, which has often been labeled homophobic, artist Kid Cudi tweeted, "The hip-hop community is the least outspoken about gay rights, and I'm gonna go out of my way to change that." More than 11,000 people retweeted that message, many expressing support.
I think people should examine their own prejudices, because violence does not happen in a vacuum. Violence is inspired by hateful ideas and hateful words.
Torres says although the LGBT community is facing many challenges, progress is being made and the message moving forward is clear.
We refuse to be terrorized, and we refuse to live in fear, and we're going to be open and proud about who we are.
Torres says you can't legislate away hate and that it has to be a cultural shift in attitudes. Now let's take that to our panel and find out what they have to say. Let me introduce our great panel to you right now. Joining us is Tio Louis, his real name, government name, Luis Perego Moreno. He is the executive producer of Prime Latino Media. They are the largest producer on the East Coast of content, and also he works with many actors and musicians. He's also a multimedia educator and activist. Louis, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Also with us, you may have heard his interview on Ebro in the Morning with Ebro, Laura Stiles, and Rosenberg, or seen it on Hot97.com. He is an openly gay rapper. His name is Cakes the Killer, and he's with us right now. Cakes, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it. Also with us is Tom Verney. He is a former NYPD detective. He's openly gay. He's also a diversity consultant for an organization that deals with police departments around the country on diversity issues. And Tom, you've also investigated hate crimes for many years with the NYPD, so I want to start with you on this. When they say Orlando was a hate crime and also an act of terror, have you ever heard anything like that?
Well, this incident that took place in Orlando was clearly unprecedented on a number of different levels. We've had hate crimes in New York City, around the country, anti-LGBT, anti-gay hate crimes that have been going on for years. I mean, in the 10 or so years that I was the LGBT liaison on behalf of the NYPD, I had tracked, I think it was about 700 or 800 hate crimes that were. These are the ones that are reported. There's a lot of hate crimes that are not reported to the police, because police, you know, people don't always come to the police with their problems for a number of reasons, right? So there's, I would imagine that number is probably double or triple the amount that we actually documented. And many times I would have to be kind of like the middle person to go in and actually take that report for the first time from someone who's attacked by one of the organizations that these people have gone to. Now you introduce the concept of terrorism to that. It just, you know, it brings it to a whole other level. We have to worry about not only international terrorism, ISIS-inspired terrorism or ISIS-directed terrorism, but there's also domestic terrorism that takes place across this country as well that people forget about a lot of times too. So we have to keep our eyes out across the board.
Across the board on everything.
Yeah.
Cakes the Killer, as an openly gay rapper, as a young African-American male, have there been times when you've been afraid or concerned?
Well, for me, I feel like there's always times when you can be in certain situations where it could be kind of problematic, but I think the main thing that I live my life based on is visibility. I think that's very important. We have a lot of visibility in the LGBT community recently, but I feel like that the more visibility we get, we're also going to get a lot of backlash from people, because people take it as, you know, you're an outlier. Why are you feeling so proud to be, you know, a sin or an abomination. So, but for me, I feel like people just need to realize that the more visibility we have, it's better for us.
The club is one place where you feel like you can be really free and like really safe. Tell us about
Especially
that.
for being a gay person, you know, walking the streets, sometimes it isn't always safe. So for you to go to a club, that's kind of like your sanctuary. So that's why it is kind of important, and a lot of clubs are getting kind of like tense now, because if we can't even go to a club and have a daiquiri, like where can we go to really just be ourselves, you know?
Latino community obviously targeted just from common sense, regardless of what the investigators are saying at this point. What was your reaction when you heard this? Because you have family ties in Orlando.
Yeah, it hits you home in so many ways, especially as a Latino gay man who's been going to Orlando for decades, and to see it happen there when you would almost expect it to happen in New York City. I mean, we know New York is a major target for terrorism and attacks on many levels, but it's something you would have never dreamt of.
You would never have thought of in
a club,
Orlando.
In a nightclub, and a small nightclub, because that's not even, there's a larger club called the Parliament House. So it's just, it was tragic on many levels.
We're going to talk more when we come back about the gunman, this mass killer, because startling revelations about him. We'll find out, is he typical of this type of individual, or is this a case really unlike anything we've ever seen? This is Street Soldiers. I'm Lisa Evers. We'll be back right after this.
Let's use this tragedy as an opportunity to engage our community in dialogue as we document parents saying, I love you, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago, it's, I'd rather have a dead son than a gay son.
Park it here, you can park it anywhere. The 2016 Smart for 2. City Smart.
In terms of this killer, this gunman, this terrorist, what he's being called, does he fit any kind of law enforcement profile of people who do these kind of crimes?
Well, what's interesting about this case is that he fits a lot of different profiles. So this guy clearly is a terrorist. He was born here in the United States, right? So it's a domestic terrorist, but yet he has ISIS-inspired ideals, according to his own rantings. So that would, that would kind of bring in some international flavor to it. And then also, obviously, he clearly targeted this club as a gay club. Whether or not he knew it was Latino night or not is still up for speculation, because we don't think we have enough information yet to point to that. So, but the fact that he targeted a gay club, he clearly had homophobic tendencies. There's also been some reporting that he may be gay himself. He may have struggled with his own sexuality, although he was married to a woman, but that's not uncommon either. There have been a number of attacks that have occurred against the gay community where the perpetrator was actually gay, and had this what's called internalized homophobia, and was so fearful to come out to anyone that they actually go out and attack people to prove that they're not gay to their friends or family or what have you. Yeah.
What do you think about that, Cakes?
I just think it's so many layers to any story, but I think the main focus is that people died, which is the main important
and
thing.
rest in peace to all the victims and to the survivors.
Yeah, sure.
Our prayers and thoughts with you and also with the family members too.
Because it's so many cultural and different variables that we could attribute to why this person did this thing, but at the end of the day, he took his own life, so we will never get the full story anyway. So I think the main thing that we need to focus on, what can we do to the system to make sure things like this don't happen anymore?
Well, what about the homophobia? Let's talk about that, because as a Street Soldiers listener and viewer, we have done shows on hip hop and homophobia. So it's like, in terms of the hip hop, for you to come out, be openly gay, and be doing your music and do it, progressing in the hip hop industry and the culture is commendable. A lot of people are really behind you for that, but they're also, people are saying, like, why did this take so long? This should have happened a long time ago. What do you think about that?
Well, just as many people are saying, why did this take so long, there's still the same people that are saying, why is this happening? Like, a lot of people who are still diehard hip hop fans still have a problem with me, but the thing that I say is, the first of the month is every month, and I have to pay my bills. Like, what I'm saying? And I'm doing what I love. So for me, it's all about the visibility. And in regards to the situation in Orlando, people died, and we need to look at it as that. Like, it was a massacre, regardless if they were gay or straight. We need to figure out policies where things like this don't happen.
The good thing that has come about this cases, it's gotten the Latino community to talk about LGBT. It's gotten them to talk about it. I mean, to begin with, the 49 people, you know, who were killed and the 53 injured, not everybody was out to their family.
No.
So this forced some people to come out.
So there must have been some really
And some people who, you know, some family
moments.
members who got it for the first time and still said to their kids, I love you.
When you talk about something good coming out of a tragedy, you know, we'd hate, and I agree with you were saying too, Cakes, that you shouldn't have to have, you know, 49 people killed and 53 people injured
to have that
To
discussion.
have a conversation about something that goes on every day, and the, you know, people that are part of everyone's life. Yeah, we're all part of the fabric of everyone's life. You know, we are your media people, we are your rappers, we are your police officers.
Right.
So
Family members.
sisters,
Friends,
brothers,
neighbors,
cousins,
sisters,
nephews.
brothers, exactly.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
until it
is what-
happens to your family, until it happens in your community, to happen in Orlando and to specifically impact the Latino community is big in so many ways. So I'm saying let's use this tragedy as an opportunity to engage our community in dialogue as we document parents saying, I love you, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago, it's I'd rather have a dead son than a gay son.
Than a gay son with that attitude.
right.
Cakes, what about you growing, because you grew up in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
In Englewood? And, you know, nice community. Did you feel you could be yourself as you were growing up, or what was your situation like?
I think the main thing about being
you're comfortable talking about
being
that.
yourself, it starts first at home. And I came out in the 3rd grade, and thank God my mother didn't kick me out of the house, or I would probably be in a different situation then. But I believe that stability starts at home first, and so that gave me the headspace where I didn't care what someone on the street said about me, because at the end of the day, you weren't putting food on in my stomach or clothes on my back.
And did she say certain things to you to encourage you? And
I think initially she did have her shock, and she did have her, you know, things that she had to get over, but at the end of the day, I'm her son, and that was just her mentality, that I'll love you regardless.
all right, on that note, we're going to take a short break. This is Street Soldiers. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. You know where to find me: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere else at Lisa Evers. We'll be back with more of our discussion on hate crimes and homophobia right after this.
At BMW, we've always celebrated drive. The drive of visionaries and game changers. The drive to make the world a better place. This summer, with your support, we'll contribute up to $1.5 million to Team USA and charitable organizations in your community. BMW, drive for a cause.
Do you feel at certain times or at certain places where you go that you have to look a certain way, or change how you look, or change how you act, so that you're not going to attract attention or negative attention?
There's so many stories. I even know friends, even to this day, of like us going into the club. You know, you have your carry-on bag, you put your skirt with your heels in the bag, change in the bathroom, and then when you leave, you got to put it back and get into your, like, you know, your more heteronormative clothes. It just depends on the neighborhood you're in. It depends on, you know, what you want to project. But there are, like, basically to be gay in the society, even though, you know, it is very progressive, it's always policing yourself.
Tom, when you were looking into the hate crimes and the hate crimes, are there certain communities where they're more prevalent? Are there certain economic groups that are more prone to that? What did you see? Were there any types of patterns?
Anyone who gets attacked in the southern part of Manhattan generally many times doesn't live there, and the perpetrators are not generally from that area. But in the outer boroughs, and even in northern Manhattan, the people who get attacked in Harlem, people who get attacked in Bed-Stuy, generally live in those areas, and the perpetrators generally live in those areas
So
as
it's
well.
very local.
It's a local thing. Generally, the perpetrators of these anti-gay crimes are usually of adolescent age range, so we're talking like teenage people, up to like mid to late 20s or early 30s for that matter. So that's kind of the segment of the population that generally attacks people that they either know to be gay or perceive to be gay based on maybe the way that they're acting. So if they're acting gay, we've had incidents where people who were got attacked because the perpetrator thought they were gay and they were 100% straight.
Right.
But they happened to be walking
I
on
remember one
Christopher
of those
Street.
stories, right.
Yeah. They were the guy who was shot down here in the West Village a
Right.
couple years ago, who, you know, and we've had people who were attacked because they happen to be walking on Bleecker Street or Christopher Street in the Village, and they're 100% heterosexual. But that's the mentality that we have to look out for. And as a community, as a New York City community, and even as a community of as a country, we have to we have to let that go. We got to let it go. You may not understand what it is to be gay or to be transgender, and that's okay. I'm not here to change anyone's opinion, you know, or anyone's religious beliefs. But you know what?
You have to respect the human rights of everybody.
The same way that I would be stopping someone for beating somebody to the ground because they were black, or because they were Hispanic, or because of whatever their difference is, people have to stand up for one another. Otherwise, we are doomed as a country.
Case for you in the hip hop sphere and in the hip hop world, working with the different people that you have to work with, have you encountered any, not to put any names on blast, but in terms of the attitudes, have you encountered some of those attitudes that are still there?
Well, for me, I think anybody that didn't want to work with me because of my sexual orientation just didn't work with me. And that's fine, because I'm not here. I don't think my presence is to convince everyone that being gay is okay.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you should take away an opportunity from me just because of my orientation.
How should people look at Cakes to Killa? As a rapper who happens to be gay, as a gay rapper, or does that not even, the labels don't matter?
Well, for me, I put a lot of gay narratives into my music because rap to me is all about speaking your truth, and
Right,
you know,
exactly,
it has to be
exactly.
real. So I can't talk about selling drugs and, you know, smashing girls, because I don't do that on a day-to-day basis. But for me, I think it's good that I'm still able to put those narratives in my story because we are misrepresented in the hip-hop community. But I also think that I'm just a rapper first.
Things have changed for the better because there have been more media representations of us. In 1993, I was in education working with teenagers. I couldn't be out.
Right.
I could today. I can today. And I am today.
All right, on that note, this is Street Soldiers. I'm your host, Lisa Evers. We're talking about hate crimes and homophobia. And when we come back, I'm going to ask our guests what they think about personal safety when you're in public places after Orlando. That's coming up next.
Did Hillary's attacks on Trump's economic policy?
What are your thoughts on personal safety at this point? Should people be concerned when they're in public places or public events out on the streets?
Yeah, I think people should be aware. I think being aware and being concerned, you know, if you're concerned, then it kind of overtakes your ability to have a good time, like Cakes was saying. I think people should absolutely go out there, go to your backyard parties, you know, go to your clubs, have a good time, get your party on. But also, if you do go someplace, especially someplace that you're not familiar with, I would absolutely just keep in the back of your mind, just a little nugget, is to where can I get out of here if things go wrong? You know what I mean? So in a club, you know, there aren't too many exits to begin with, right? So you want to make sure that
And we
you're
heard those stories
mindful.
of people hiding in the bathroom stalls.
Absolutely. So, you know, what I did, and I've seen this, a couple of people have talked about this in other venues, that you want to be mindful of where the exits are. You want to be, if something were to go down, you know, can you get out? You know, where can you get out? Where would you go? You want to run it as far away from the scene as you can, and then at some point come back and talk to the police about what you saw. You want to be able to have some place to ditch into if things, you know, to protect yourself. And if worst case scenario, if you're stuck and it's just you and some crazy maniac, then you know what? Then all bets are off at that point. If you're going down, I'd rather go down trying to punch that man's face in. You know what I mean? Grab that gun away or do what I have to do to fight. If I'm stuck where I can't get out, you know, then you'd want to fight. But ideally, you want to try to get out, get as many people as you can out, you, yourself, your friends, and get to a point of safety.
I live in a historically gay neighborhood, which is the West Village, that has Christopher Street. And I'm in a relationship for nearly 17 years. And after a couple of drinks in the village, as we're walking through these small little side streets, my partner may want to hold my hand. And I've usually pushed it off because there have been hate crimes.
Even in
the
this
last
day and
5
age,
years.
Teal Lewis?
Absolutely. In the last 5 years in Chelsea, in the West Village, there was a murder on 8th Street and 6th Avenue.
Yeah.
So the stuff still happens. And so I say to him, you know, don't put us at risk. But since the Orlando massacre, I have a whole new mindset and headspace now where I'm like, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm not going to let the fear drive my life. And we're holding hands. We're not engaging in public oral sex. We're simply holding hands. And the more, you know, why is it that there's no problem seeing a heterosexual couple in a restaurant kiss or holding hands on the street, but two men can't do the same also? So the more they begin to see that this is part of the fabric of society, that this is a healthy public display of affection between two people in a healthy relationship, that do it periodically, and we're going to do it from now on because I'm not going to stop.
On that note, I want to thank all of you for being with us for this episode of Street Soldiers on hate crimes and homophobia. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, use your mind. It's your best weapon. I hope it's your only weapon. I'm Lisa Evers. Let's push for peace.